Hey guys, Darren Kelly, coach of Wise Ocean Pods, and welcome back to another trade mode. Heading into round 18, 7 rounds of the season left to go, and we are now into full luxury season, where essentially all we're looking to do is pretty simple. We're looking to bring in the best players that are going to score the most amount of points for us each and every week, because essentially we have two trades now where we can sideways players and hopefully continue to upgrade our side each and every week where we can possible. So I think it's going to be a fair bit easier from here on out, as we don't have to play around with rookies too much. Obviously, you want to still continue to do some cash generation where you can to get those bigger upgrades and jump off these sort of guys that are still classified as probably mid-prices or underpriced premiums and get them up to the massive guys. But at the end of the day, you can have a small amount of cash generation from those guys as well. So I don't think it's a huge big deal at this stage. So let's jump straight into the trade out targets. This is where I think a lot of people are struggling now, and this is where I'm struggling as well, because there are a massive amount of names that you could be looking at trading out. I'll bring up my top 5 here. Where are you? There you are. So my number one trade out target this week, unfortunately, has to be a Jared Caldwell. He was the number one trade-in target last week, but unfortunately, he is now injured. He is out for 6 to 8 weeks with ankle injury, set for surgery. So, unfortunate for those guys or those coaches that did trade him in last week with a decent run. And obviously, his ceiling is pretty massive, but unfortunately, he got a bad score and now a forced trade, which at this time of the year isn't the worst thing. Like I said, it's pretty simple to sideways him anyways, because he is worth a fair bit of money, so you can get to anyone that you're looking for. It's definitely not as bad as it would have been if it was, towards the start of the season, where you would have been one trade behind if you had a forced trade, unfortunately. But now, definitely isn't that bad of a time, so I wouldn't be feeling too bad if you have him there at the end of the day. Just unfortunate about the score. So he is obviously number one. Less said about that, the better. Number 2, I have Sam Doherty. Now, I love Doc, and he has been a pretty decent pick for, probably the last 5 weeks or so. He is named off halfback. He didn't get dropped like a lot of people expected him. And, after he's gone to this halfback role back in round 11, he's done pretty well. He's had a few up and down scores, but it's just getting concerning now. He had a 40-point first quarter against the Pies, but then only scored 44 for the remainder of the game across the 3 quarters. So that just seems to show to me that there is a lot of instability with his scoring ability, whether the role's changing or whatnot. He's just not consistent with it, where in the past he has been quite a consistent player. And particularly, we want to see it more in the 4th quarter. That's where a lot of the defenders pretty much get a lot of their points. As the game starts to slow up, they're obviously tired. They want to chip it around a fair bit. So the fact that he's not getting involved in that at any time is the concerning. So I just have concerns with his role. He's up against Brisbane, who are a tough matchup, but Collingwood was also. So I'm just expecting another 80-ish sort of score against Brisbane Lions. Looking at the scores against them, for designated kick-out players throughout the season, there's not been too many that go quite well. I think the most recent one was Rosie, who won 111, but most of the other defenders go about that 80 score. So for Doherty, I'm expecting him to just get another 80 score, and I think now is sort of the right time to jump off of him, just with a lot of the uncertainty around his role. Good price, break even still, just he's got to start going down from now if he drops another 80. So I think he's one that can go this week. He does play Thursday night, so if you do want to be a bit more tricky, maybe you don't want to lock yourself out on trades too early, you could throw the emergency on him, see how he goes, and then make some trades around that if he does end up failing, or maybe he just does well, and then you can hold him. So you can play around with that, but I do have a bad feeling that a bad score is coming because there's all the signs that the role is not as consistent as we want it to be, and obviously Colton aren't performing as what they want to be, so they're going to make a few more changes for the remainder of the season because they're not going to make finals. So I'm not sure Doc is going to be there, but I've been saying that for the last couple of weeks, so I won't speak too much more on that. Here's my number 2. Number 3 is Sam Darcy. You got kissed on the dick towards the 4th quarter in that game where he scored 65 points. So I'd be taking that save and absolutely running with it. He has 2 very, really tough matchups in the next 2 weeks. Keane is one of the toughest key defenders to score against. Looking at some of the scores, I think the highest score for a key forward was like a 78, and that was like a Charlie Curnow back a couple of weeks ago. Besides that, they've all been pretty like 30s and 40s. So I'm expecting a pretty bad score from Sam Darcy this week, unless you have the luxury of throwing him on the bench and running a 23rd premium in the forward line just to cover him. And then try and pick him up throughout the better matchups. Essendon's probably one that he should perform well in. Melbourne, and then the Eagles, probably the only three matchups that I'd probably want him for. But realistically, he's got 4 tough matchups for the remainder of the season, so I'm not super keen on having him for those periods at this stage. So I think he's one you can jump off at his price tag. I'd just be taking that 88 and be running with it before he drops a massive like 30 on your field, because that could destroy your season quite quickly. So he is up there quite high. Number 4, I have 2 players that, have been really hit and miss. Caleb Sarong, we know how good he can be, but he just seems to cop attention so often. He obviously had the terrible score of 46 on the weekend against the James Jordan tag. That obviously really hurt owners, and even last week he had the Windhager tag for a 62. So, and obviously the 2 weeks before that he went massive with both 130 pluses. So that's just the season he's sort of having. He just either goes massive or he has bad scores. So he's got 2 tough matchups in Hawthorn and Collingwood in the next 2. Not expecting any tags as such, so there is probably an argument to say that he should bounce back a little bit and probably have a decent score. So if you're not too concerned about his price dropping, then there's a chance that you can hold him. I wouldn't stop you from holding him, but if you're concerned about his price dropping a fair bit and maybe you can pick him up a little bit later on at a cheaper price, you could jump off now while he's still just under that $1 million price tag. So that's him. Bailey Dale was the other component there. He also had a pretty bad score, the 59 on the weekend. Again, he's super hit and miss so far this season. Drops 60s on the regular, but also goes 120 every now and then. So he has got 2 tough matchups again, the same as Sam Darcy. Not expecting tags, as I said, but off halfback, not expecting anything amazing for him. He could, I'm just not expecting anything amazing from him, and he's not part of the top 6 or even the top sort of 8 or 9 of the defenders, in my opinion. So I think you can easily make a pretty big upgrade there. He's going to drop in coin quite quickly now. So while he has decent coin on his head, I'd be getting up to those other guys. He is also fairly unique, so every single of one of those bad scores really hurts your team. So yeah, I'd just be jumping off there. If you're a new viewer around here, you should just know that I'm not a huge fan of Bailey Dales in terms of his fantasy numbers. He is very hit and miss and not consistent enough in my opinion. So he is there, number 4. I just wouldn't own him. Number 5 is an interesting perspective to me, is that Tristan Cherry, he's obviously being traded out by a fair few coaches this weekend, with 2.7k coaches trading him out currently. So he has got 2 tough matchups in the next 2 weeks, up against Gawn and then up against Brodie Grundy the week after. Obviously, his form has been pretty subpar. He hasn't hit a ton in the last 4, and even in his last 6, he's only had 1 ton. A lot of them, what is he averaging in the last 5? So 95 in the last 5. Just priced at that $1 million price tag, so he's expected to drop a little bit. So if you can make a trade from him to, say, a Brodie Grundy or even a Royal Marshall who's hit some form, that would probably guarantee that you're going to get 20, 30 points of upside there, assuming that Cherry's probably going to put up another 90-ish score, right? And assuming that, Marshall's probably going to hit a 120, and also Grundy's going to hit a 120, if not 130 this weekend. So there is upside there. So if Cherry is the worst player in your team and you're not seeing much upside, and you have the bit more luxury to do these sideways trades for short-term periods, then I wouldn't mind jumping off a Tristan Cherry for the next 2 weeks. I will say, though, you probably want to jump back onto him for the Geelong matchup, because his next 4 weeks are pretty elite. If I show you that on DVP, where is it? He goes, where am I looking? Oh my goodness, there we are. So from round 20 onwards, he's got 4 really good matchups. GWS is just a bit of a lighter matchup, but it should be fine. But yeah, you can see he's got 2 tough matchups, 4 green ones, and then obviously finishes with a really tough one as well. So you could even sideways him for that round. But if I'm just saying, if you have the luxury of being able to trade your ruckman to get the best matchup possible, then this is an easy way to guarantee that you're going to get a pretty big upside, because we know ruckman are pretty easy to tell when they're going to have a good score and when they're going to have bad score based on the matchup, because there is no risk of a tag and stuff like that. They just have the matchup 1-on-1 or 1-on-2, whatever the ruck setup is like. We know that there's a lot of consistency about their scoring potential. So it's an easy way to get a leg up if you're wanting to make a shift there. The player that I would be trading Tristan Cherry to if I was in the camp of trading him would obviously be Brodie Grundy. Yes, it's costing you about 170k, but that's not too far of a stretch from a rookie. If you've got a 400k rookie sitting on the bench there, you can get that done pretty quickly, because Brodie Grundy does have the better matchup of the ruckman this week. Gawn still has a tough matchup against Cherry, as I said. Marshall does have Sydney, so he has Grundy. So Grundy is actually a tougher ruckman recently, and Marshall's run isn't great either. He only has Geelong next week, and then he has another 2 tough matchups, so you could wait there. Whereas Brodie Grundy by far has the best run for the remainder of the season. You could look at Briggs, but I wouldn't go there. I just wouldn't do it at this stage. Besides that, we're not really looking at any other ruckman. English, he's got 2 tough matchups. So realistically, your only option is Brodie Grundy if you're looking to make a significant jump in that position. So that is an interesting one to think about. A couple other guys I wanted to speak about in the trade out camp. Honestly, there's a host of players that you could trade out. Like, I think we look at all our teams and we're like, oh, this guy could go. Probably half a dozen could go, honestly. So Long is another interesting one. He is the second most traded out player so far this week, with 3.2k coaches trading him out. Uh, Obviously has gone 380s on the trot. He has not made my top 5 just because he has the easiest matchup for midfielders in the last 10 against the Gold Coast Suns. So I'm expecting a better score, or at least it's going to be a pretty safe, 80, 90, hopefully. So I'm not too worried about him dropping like a super big stinker that it's going to absolutely hurt my season. An 80 I'm fine with, but he has the capability of going a 100, 110 sort of score at his price point is definitely an interesting one that I'm willing to hold him for one more week. Next week will be an interesting one, obviously against Fremantle, but the Richmond matchup is pretty juicy as well. So I'm not too worried about his role. I know that side bottom is expected to be back in the side, and that he obviously had a bit of inside mid usage with Titch back as well. I'm just sort of expecting that number to switch with Tom Mitchell and side bottom, do about 50-50% in the midfield, and then spend half forward or wing or wherever they're sort of expected. I'm not expecting Ned Long to be the one that moves out of that role, just because what they're doing at the moment is working, and Ned Long is that workhorse in there that just does the right thing, and he does get on the right end of a few, score involvements and stuff like that. So I don't see him being the one that moves out of that midfield anytime soon. His break even is higher, so if he is the worst player in your side, you can just play the break even game. He is dropping a little bit in coin now, 19k on the weekend, 109 break even, could drop a fair bit in coin if he does put up another sort of middling 70 score. So yeah, I can see the argument of trading him out, but he's not one that I think he could hurt you if you trade him out. That's all I'm trying to say, and that's all we're trying to look for at this stage in the season, where we are trying to get the most out of our players. And I could see Long easily going for a 100 110 sort of score, so I just don't see you're going to get the massive upside there. Whereas for a Doherty, for example, he could drop a 60 or so, quite simply. So there's that one. Rankin, he's also another one that I could have put in my top 5, and obviously was one that I was looking at trading out early in the season. Early in the week. I fully expect him to drop a potential 60 this weekend up against the Western Bulldogs. I do expect him to spend a little bit more time forward as well, just with, where is he? There he is. Rochelle obviously done for a period of time now with his knee, so that means that there's a forward spot available. So does Rankin get thrown forward a fair bit more? He was already spending a fair bit of time forward anyway, with only 25% CBAs, but we're not expecting him to kick 5 goals every single week. That's what got him this decent score. But hopefully he can just continue to hit 80s for those that are holding him. But you probably want to trade him out at some stage with, some tougher matchups coming as well. So he is another one that you could potentially move off for. But again, it's just an argument that the Rankin, and then the sort of the sixth best midfielder, whether it's a Rankin or a Myers, or a Petrarca or a Myers, you're probably only talking 10 or 15 points. It's not like it's a huge gap there. So yeah, there's an argument that you could hold him and just take the point here and get the upgrade on the other side of the trade anyway. So he is another one that's interesting. Bergman is another one I wanted to mention. I know a lot of people are looking at him just with his role changing consistently. He is just becoming that Mr. Fix-It, which is super annoying. And if you've been a long-term viewer, I'm not a huge fan of these players that are just Mr. Fix-Its, that they can be thrown around anywhere to play that team role. So, but in saying that, I don't think it's the week you want to jump off of him. They've shown that they want him in the midfield, so they're going to probably bring in a defender to cover Radaglia, and that means Bergman's going to be back in the midfield up against one of the best matchups against the Western Coast Eagles. He could drop a 120 on your head, so I just wouldn't do it in my case. I'd just be holding him, seeing how he goes. He's shown to have a pretty big ceiling and also be pretty consistent when he's got the right role. He just needs to have that consistent role to be able to score well. So fingers crossed they bring in a defender. If they don't, then you can move off. But I'd just be waiting for team announcements before just trading him out, because it is a good matchup. So I just don't see him being in my top 5 at all. A couple others I need to mention. I don't have any on my list, but obviously Matt Roberts, if you still have him, he needs to go. He was the sub on the weekend, so that is super unfortunate. Sheldrick, I'm not really sure how he's been going, but dropped his first poor score for a while, so he can go. He's just mid-price at the end of the day. Bailey Smith, people trading up Bailey Smith is a bit of an odd one. Unless he's confirmed that he's not playing, then I could get on board, but I'd be prioritising getting him back in. Like I said in my earlier week video, in my my team review, he's obviously 10, 20 points better than the worst forward. That's obviously a huge point loss in that space. So he is one that you want to own. Yes, there are some concerns about a tag. He's got potentially a Bedford, but they haven't been tagging recently, so I'm not super confident on that. He did score a 149 against them earlier in the season, but when I went back and looked at that game, Bedford didn't play in that game, so there was no evidence of a tag. I don't know why Bedford didn't play. I think it was maybe a suspension or something like that. So it was just a 1 week off for him. So there is a chance that he does get attention. So that is going to be interesting, especially for those that are like me that traded him out. It's definitely an interesting discussion whether it's one we want to go against or one that we want to trade in and just go with the pack, because he can be so damaging and obviously has been the best player so far this season with a pretty big ceiling. So that is definitely an interesting discussion. Even next week, he's got a potential Windhager tag. Whether they run the tag on Windhager or Holmes is another argument. I just think the hype is all around Bailey Smith at the moment, that they're going to go to Bailey Smith, understanding that probably Holmes is the better footballer in terms of his damage in his, disposal. I fully understand that, but I still think the hype is around Bailey Smith and that they're going to stop him when they can. So that's where I probably see those next couple of tags potentially going. So it's one that I can see going both ways. You can go against it and try and get a leg up by having a bit more of a unique side, and hopefully he drops a few poorer scores and he drops in coin and we can jump back onto him at some other stage, because he does have a high break even. He is the most expensive player in the game at the moment. But we know him. He's been one that's super consistent. He could still drop a 120 in a tagged game. So I don't think he's one you want to go against for long, but I get around the argument that you could probably hold off for the next 2 weeks as such. So that's what I'm tossing up this week. I'll show you my trades shortly, but yeah, he's not currently in my team as it sits. Chera is still a very interesting one. I said last week, I think everyone was overreacting with the poor 59. He put up a 93, so got a bit more reward there. I still think he's close enough to the top 8 for an extended period of time. The midfielders suck at this stage. So I wouldn't be wasting a trade on Adam Chera, who could put up a decent score at any stage, unless you have concerns that he's going to be playing off halfback for the remainder of the season. I don't think he played a huge amount there from memory. I probably should look it up. Nah, I won't do it now. Take too long, but yeah, I don't think he's one that you need absolute trade out at this stage. And I'll wrap it up there. I think a lot of these are getting fairly unique. Cal Daniel can go if you can get him up to a better player, but I do think he has a good matchup against Melbourne this weekend, so he should go okay. I wouldn't be trading at Jack Sinclair, even though he has been quite poor. He should go well this week with potentially some attention getting into Wangani Malira. So I'll leave that there for the trade outs. Hopefully that answers a fair few of the questions. If I haven't answered any of your Pacific players, drop them down below and I will get back to you at some stage. But we'll move into the midfielders, and I'll quickly touch on the defenders because I don't think a lot of people are shopping here at this stage, just because there's no clear answer of who's going to go well. Like, obviously, Kobe is one of the best and has been doing super well so far this the last period of time. He's got Melbourne, like I said, really good matchup for defenders specifically, so he should have another decent matchup. The only thing, though, with him is looking at his run. He's got Sydney, Geelong, St Kilda, and GWS, the next four, all have renowned taggers in their side. Now, if you ask me who you're tagging at North, which you shouldn't be tagging North anyway, because North are at the bottom of the ladder. They're not really fighting for anything, and they're not. They can be dangerous on the day, but they shouldn't be going into the games like, oh, I'm going to shut down this player because we could lose if we don't. But they could, if he gets off the chain, they could send someone to him. You know, James Jordan, a Mullen, Windhager, and also a Bedford, all of those four taggers. So there is some concern that he potentially could come attention. Even in the Melbourne game, they have like a Sparrow who's done jobs in the past against halfbackers, or an Ed Langdon who's been doing the tagging role in the midfield. So there is, in the next five, he does have some tag concerns. So if you're concerned there about that, then there is a chance that you just avoid him for now, because he could drop a poor score at some stage. I still think the tag goes to LDU just with his worth ethic in the midfield and how damaging he can be. But if you ask me who the next best would be, it'd probably be the likes of a Kobe McKercher off halfback. He just moves the ball quite well. If not a Sheasel off the half forward, but he's not really being as influential, not getting the ball in his hands. So, yeah, I wouldn't be too worried there. But, yeah, Kobe's an interesting one. But I'll bring up my top five for the week. Number one is obviously Lockie Whitfield. He's come off that week of concussion. Does have a high break even, however, so you could still wait a week. But the thing I like to point out at this time of year is that you've got to be happy with the price you're paying. At the end of the day, if you ask me that I could pay up for a Lockie Whitfield for 942k, who's averaging 102 for the year or 105 before his injury, then I'd absolutely take that. And his run is fairly decent as well, with the likes of Geelong and then Essendon for the next two. Tough one against Sydney. Maybe a tag there, maybe not. We'll have to wait and see. Then he's got a pretty decent run home as well. So he's got a good run and one that I'd be happy just to pay out for now. Even though he could drop a little bit more in coin, I think he could come back and just go ballistic. So yeah, I'd be happy to pay out for him now. The only concern I have with him is if he's going to have a bit more of a... If he's going to come back and have a little bit lower time on ground, just, trying to work him back into it. Maybe he still has to go through the test to make sure he's fit for the game. I think that happens tomorrow. So stay tuned for that. He could be ruled out at some stage. But he does have a history of concussions. So one little knock could easily send him spiraling again to concussion. So that is the only risk with picking him up this week, is that it is still so fresh. So he is still quite... fragile in that sense, so it could lead to another concussion, and we know his history. So that's where I have him. That it's a risky play, but it definitely can work out at his price tag. So I don't mind it at number one, but of the defender options, he's definitely the one to pick up with his ceiling. Number two is his teammate and Lockie Ash. She's paying a bit more of a price tag, but he's been super consistent. And yeah, with Lockie Whitford back, he should just continue at these 110 average like he's been doing for majority of the season. So if you're just looking to get the best mid defender possible, this is probably the guy that you're looking for this week. He is only 16% owned, so he's still fairly lowly owned in terms of, a lot of the coaches. So yeah, I think he's another one that can jump on. Again, the run is pretty spot on, so yeah, definitely one I'd be looking to jump on. I spoke about Kirby already at number 3. Number 4, Callum Mills popped up his head just with a decent matchup against St Kilda this weekend. Not expecting any attention, but we saw again when he's not playing this accountable role, he is able to score quite well and pop up for a lot of pop plus sixes and wants to be that guy, wants to distribute the ball off halfback. Had a poorer final quarter, so he didn't quite get the ton, but he should have probably got there. And his run is really good, like St Kilda North, Essendon, Geelong, and then the Eagles. Sorry, I can't seem to get the words out at the moment, but yeah, great run home. So I think he's definitely one that you could jump on at that cheaper price, even if you want to do it as a 23rd premium or just a simple upgrade from a McCarthy or something like that. If you still have on the field, he's definitely the one you could jump on at a cheaper price. Number 5, I have Nasai Wanganeen-Malira because he's definitely not my number 1 because I don't think you're going to get the reward that you want from him this week. In that sense, just because he does probably have a tag coming his way, whether it's from a James Jordan or a Braden Campbell. I think one of them are going to do some stoppage work on him. So even if he goes into the midfield, he's going to probably get a row bottom or again a James Jordan. So no matter where he goes, I see him getting attention because he is a damaging ball user. So I'm just expecting a sub-ton score from him, in my opinion. So I just don't know if I'd be paying up this week for that price tag and for the matchup. So, but I do still want to reiterate that you want him for the remainder of the season because, again, he has a phenomenal run home and he's obviously been a phenomenal fantasy player for us this year with a huge ceiling, and obviously they're looking for him whenever they can. So he could prove me wrong in the sense that the team still look for him at any stage. So he could still put up a very decent score. So, yeah. But I just don't think I'm going doing it this week. I think you get more upside by getting a few other guys at this stage. So, just wanted to do that. A couple other defenders I didn't mention. I'll mention Nick Martin as the forward. Again, I classify him as forward because the forward's the weaker line. So, you should be having him there. Holmes, you should have him already. But, again, will I be trading him in this week? He does have a tough matchup again against GWS. Potentially could be tagged. I know I'm saying that a lot. It seems like the tags are just all we care about at this stage. But yeah, I still think you want him for the remainder of the season. So yeah, you should jump on him if you have the ability to. But again, probably not going to get the instant reward that you're looking for. Rosie, you should have him already. But if you don't, he's probably close to the number 1. I think a lot of people already have him anyway. Tom McCarthy, yeah, you can still jump on. Probably expecting a lower score this week, and I'd be trying to get him on field if you can, just to get up against Port Adelaide. But yeah, still a amazing rookie at a decent price. Sub 500k, negative 13 break even. Oh, sorry, negative 17 break even. So yeah, definitely if you don't have him, can still jump on him. He's going to make a huge amount of coin. And you can see a lot of these numbers get fairly unique now, so I'll probably finish it off there, to be honest. Let's move on to the midfielders now. So, midfielders for me, I've got Zach Merritt number 1. Now, this is probably a bit of a backflop from what I said in my team review video without having a bit of research involved into it. I just thought he only has one decent matchup and then he has a host of tags coming his way. Looking into it now, he's obviously got a strong matchup this weekend where he should go 130, 140 quite simply. He went 149 against them early in the year. And there's obviously a huge hole in the midfield that he's going to be playing now. Caldwell's out for an extended period of time. I wasn't expecting that at the time that he was going to be out for that long. So pretty much Merritt is going to be playing in the midfield for the remainder of the season, in my opinion. I don't see a world where they're going to be playing him anywhere else while Caldwell's out or Parrish is out, which Parrish is still a TBC, so there's no certainty of his return. So, in my opinion, he's going to be playing in the midfield, and we know that when he plays in the midfield, he is a 110 averaging midfielder, if not 115, as he has been for the last decade. So, he is well underpriced at that price point. I guess the only concern and what a lot of discussion has been around is the tags coming. So, Richmond this week, no concerns. Again, should hit a 140. GWS, like I said, they haven't been tagging recently. You know, Noah Anderson went 130 against them last weekend. No tag. Bedford played. Not really sure what's going on there. Bedford's not playing in the midfield as much. So I'm not 100% locking that in as a tag option, but I could definitely see Toby Bedford coming back into the midfield to do a bit of that work. But at the end of the day, it's not locked in, so I'm not super worried about that one. Western Bulldogs, tough matchup, but no tags should be happening in that one. So if you're looking at him in terms of a next 3 week play, I don't mind it. It's the next three that are, or next four even, are the tricky part. In probably where I wouldn't want to own him, wouldn't want to own him, because he's got Sydney again, James Jordan, row bottom, whatever you want to look at in the midfield, definitely does the job. Mullen done the job previously, got a 94. Windhager again. I don't know if they played early in the season. No, they haven't. Yeah, so there's a tag coming his way. So I'm looking at him as a potential 3 week play. One tag in that sense. Could have put up a 140 in this week. Hopefully, he can put up a decent score against a Bedford tag next week, and obviously another one against the Western Bulldogs. So hopefully, he can average around that 110 sort of sense in that next three matches, and then I can trade him out following that. Again, we are in luxury season, so we do have the luxury to be able to jump off these guys that do have a bit more of a terrible run and a bit more of a tagging situation going on that you can jump off each and every week. Obviously, unless there's, force trades or something like that going on every now and then, that may lock us out. But at the end of the day, with him potentially going to be making, 100K over the next sort of 3 weeks, I'm happy to jump on his price to rise, and then I can sideways him to another premium when it comes to his time jumping out of my side with the tags coming. So I really like Merritt at number one. You're going to get the instant reward that we're looking for, and that's all we're looking for at this stage in the season. We're trying to get the maximum amount of points in our side each and every week, and Merritt is pretty much one of those guarantees at this stage that he's going to go big. So he will feature pretty highly in the captains you'd expect. Number two, I've got Zach Butters. Now, again, focusing on the matchup, he has got West Coast Eagles. Again, another very nice matchup against midfielders. He's one that we've been watching for a little while. We had a lot of issues with tagging options in the last sort of 4 weeks. With again, all the names I've been speaking about. He's just sort of middled around these poorer scores. Dropped a poor 79. Showed what he's capable of last weekend with a 119 against a tough matchup against Brisbane Lions. Now he's got a decent matchup against West Coast. Expecting a 120 to 130 score, if not even bigger from him, honestly. His only nice matchup he's really played against so far this season was North against with a 126 with 13 tackles. Hopefully he gets more marks than that. But he's just finding the ball at will at the moment. 31 touches, 30 touches, 28 touches, 27 touches, 32 touches. I'm expecting a lot of touches from him this weekend and another big score. So he is definitely another huge target for you at that price point that can put up a big ceiling for us and get maximum amount of points on field. Now, I have more confidence that Butters in the next 3 weeks is a better play in the sense that while the run doesn't look amazing, specifically this stretch is pretty tough in terms of matchups overall. I can probably show you better here from a standpoint. So if I go to Port Adelaide, he's got 4 weeks of orange matchups for this extended period of time. But when I dived a bit deeper into Butters' scoring ability, he actually loves playing against Hawthorn. It's his best matchup he plays against. He averages over 100. The only team he averages over 100 against across these 6 matchups in his career, so he loves playing against them, so expecting a decent score there, and we have seen some very good scores against Hawthorn in the last coming weeks, so they are potentially coming a bit easier. So I like him for that matchup as well. And then even Adelaide, like he averages 91 against them. It's a showdown. They obviously go pretty hard at each other, so he should be up and ready to go for that game, and it's not by far not his worst team that he scores against. So I'm liking the form Butters is in, even though he hasn't been putting up the scores that we're looking for. I'm expecting him to go on a bit of a rare form for now. 13% owned can be a bit more of a unique option for you that you could jump on and get a bit of ahead of the pack. So I like him at number 2. I think you're going to get the most reward out of these sort of players. Errol Gordon is another one that a lot of people are looking at trading into. He is 5.9k people trading in this week. Now, you are paying a premium price. The only thing I don't like about this week is the potential of a Wintega tag. If you asked me, and obviously that means nothing in the AFL world, who is the most damaging player when it comes to Sydney, there's no denying that Errol Goulden is the one that really drives them the most. If you can shut Errol Goulden down, I think you can shut down Sydney down, because since he's returned, Sydney look like a completely different team, just with the ball movement, the motivation, their enthusiasm to actually play great football. So he is one that I'd be shutting down the best you can. Whether there's a question mark whether they can shut him down just with his athletic ability. He runs all day and he's very quick at it too. So there's a chance that they can't keep up with him, but they're probably going to try their best. And he'd be one I'd be tagging before the likes of a Heaney or a Warner, in my opinion. So I'd just be careful with paying up that price tag for someone that's probably going to go, a 90 or something like that. But at the end of the day, I still think you want him for the remainder of the season with the run that I mentioned for Callum Mills. He's got the exact same one. North next week, I think he'll be a huge target you want to grab hold of next week. So that's definitely something that you should prioritize if you're looking to plan for future trades and have a big think about that. Obviously, Essendon, Geelong, and then West Coast as well. If I want to show you on here, I can show you a little bit easier. Doesn't help when you can't see what I'm looking at. I wish I could move this a little bit. It sucks. But yeah, Sydney. Look at that matchup. So 4 really nice matchups in the final bit of the season. So there is that. And the final one, I think I had it in the midfield, was just Tom Green. He's still sticking around as a decent option if you didn't jump on last week. He did save his score late, but again, has a really nice run. Still averaging around what you expect him to do. Still part of the top 8 midfielders for the remainder of the season. Still at a very decent price tag, so you can still jump on him there. Would just like to see him tackle a little bit more, but yeah. I don't see him getting attention this week. I do think Finn Callaghan gets the attention now, being a bit more damaging in there. So that could only mean that Tom Green potentially gets more of the ball, a bit more of the tackles and stuff like that. So I could expect a decent score from him this week as well. So that is the midfielders this week. Just to mention a few others, Marcus Bontempelli. I'm struggling to try and recommend people to grab hold of him because he has been quite poor for an extended period of time. He's only had the 2 pop scores with 120 and 130 against very easy matchups. He by far has no easy matchups in the next 2 against Adelaide Crows and Brisbane Lions, both 2 top 4 sides who are both very restrictive in that sense. So not expecting great scores from him as an owner myself, so I'm not recommending people to jump on him this week, even though he is at a nice price tag with a nice break even. I think you can wait. Realistically, you're looking at it from an Essendon standpoint. You can go from there, and then his run sort of opens up from the remainder of the season. So I'd be waiting, in my opinion. Dick Dacos, if you don't have him, I assumed everyone had him already, so I didn't even think about putting him in my top 5, to be honest. So yeah, you definitely want him. He should have a pretty big ceiling this weekend against the easiest matchup for midfielders. Noah Anderson, I probably wouldn't go there as much as he has been really good. He now comes up against a really tough matchup, or a tough run of fixture with 3 really restricted matchups in the next 3 weeks. So probably expecting a little bit unders from him, in my opinion. So probably not looking to pay up that price for him at this stage. Maybe towards the end of the season if it opens up. Doesn't really though. But yeah, we'll see as we get further down the list. I think that's about it. We're getting into a bit more unique territory here. So I'll move on to the Ruckman. Again, I'll quickly summarize what I said before, but it's essentially the same thing. Brodie Grundy is my number 1. If you can jump on him just with the matchup, you're going to get that instant pop. This week, yes, you're paying a little bit more of a premium at $1.17 million, but looking at the form, you definitely want to own him for the remainder of the season with the run that he's got. Like I said, it's fairly juicy, so you want a piece of him if you can. He's still fairly unique with 8.4%, so it is a bit more of a pottish pick if you can grab hold of him. Roll Marshall is up against Brodie Grundy, but yeah, I still think with his form he's finding at the moment, with 119, 140, 105, 129 in the last 4 post his bye. He's definitely enjoyed it, so yeah, definitely one that you could jump on as well. Like I said, tougher run though. with Brody Grundy, Max Gawn, and Cherry in his next 4. So, yeah, be careful if you're looking long term. But, yeah, I don't think he's going to get much cheaper than what he's at the moment. So, yeah, might as well jump on if you can. Not really looking at any other ruckman realistically, in my opinion. So that is the ruckman done. I'll quickly touch on the forwards and then I'll get into some rookies just to cap off the rookies there. So my number 1, if you don't own him, is the likes of Nick Martin. Again, he has a Richmond matchup. He went massive against them early in the year. He scored a 166. I know he's coming off a poor score of 74 and 85 in the last 2, but he just is different when he comes up against these better matchups and doesn't cop any attention. It is just going to go absolute ballistic. So he's definitely one you want to own. Yes, you're paying a bit more premium and the break even is higher, but he should hit that break even. I would be very surprised if he doesn't get extremely close to that. So he's definitely one that you should own. Bailey Smith is still up there. Like I said earlier about him, is that he's someone that you still want to own for the remainder of the season because he is the best player in the competition right now in terms of fantasy points. But there is an argument, again, that you could hold off on him. But at the end of the day, I still think he is one that you should be eyeing off every single week, that he could hurt you if you're not getting him in the right stage. So, yeah, you're better off owning him than not owning him. Yeah, given that he is, 73% owned, it's one that you should definitely be prioritizing and get back in at some stage. Christian Petrarca is my number 3. Has a decent stretch of 3 games now. He obviously had a tough one last week, but he's really matchup dependent. He really loves to go good against the easy opponents. So Gold Coast 105, North should go extremely well. They're the second best matchup, so I'm expecting another ton from him. Carlton's another decent one. That got rid of it for some reason. Where'd he go? There he is. West Coast, St Kilda, and then probably can look to jump off him for the final 3 games at some stage. So decent little run for the next 4 weeks. I'd definitely worthwhile looking at him if you're looking to make a bit of a shift from a Rankin or a Daniel. Could definitely jump on him for a couple weeks for not much more expensive. Jason Francis is at a very good price tag, 721k. Decent matchup again against West Coast. And obviously the same sort of situation with Butters. He doesn't mind the next 3 as well, so can see him popping a bit of score. And the role definitely looked like it improved last week. Whether that was due to Bergman just getting, that role shift going back, it's hard to really tell. But I still think at the price point you're paying, he can definitely have a bit of a pop score as a forward. And again, could be a decent 23rd premium option that you're looking at. So there is that. And number 5, I had Jack Martin at another even cheaper price at 600k or just under, who's been putting up some decent scores off halfback for Geelong. Looks like to be a bit of a ball mover there, making the good coin. Tough matchup this week, but then the next 2 or 3 is pretty decent as well. So if you're looking for a 23rd premium, definitely could be a good shout here who can pop a bit of a score as well. So yeah, there's that. Realistically, Jack McRae is the only one that I didn't really mention, I guess, in the forward line. I know a lot of people trading him in this week. 3.3k coaches at this stage. But, again, it's a Sydney matchup. Not expecting attention as such. I'm not expecting a tag to go his way. But it's Sydney. They are the toughest matchup of recent for midfielders. If you look in the last 2 matchups, since they really started to get the ball rolling, they haven't had a midfielder score over 86. So I'm just expecting that low sort of 80 score from a Jack McRae this week. Could be even worse, to be honest. So, yeah, I'm just not expecting anything amazing from him. So I think you can wait. I don't think he's going to get away from you at all. He's already priced at a decent point, 934k. You can wait 1 more week or even 2 more weeks where he starts to run into those really decent form of matchups. So I'm not super keen on it this week. I think you can wait. So just wanted to mention that. And that's about it. Luke Jackson, I still think he's a worthwhile option, but you are paying a premium now. He's put up some decent, a lower one on the weekend with an 89, couple goals still. Does come against Lloyd Meek, who's a bit of an easier matchup for midfielders specifically. For ruckman, so should be okay. If you don't own him, you could definitely look there. Brian Myers, probably not the week to jump on him with GWS, but he did have a 99 against them earlier in the year. Just again, what's going to happen with that a tag option? Is it going to go to him, or is it going to go somewhere else? Who knows at this stage? So can avoid him for now, and that's probably about it for the midfield for the forwards, to be honest. So I'll jump off that. Finally, I'll just touch on the rookies that you're looking at. I don't think there's too many people looking to do too many downgrades, but I think the likes of Stevenson is obviously the easiest one to jump on at this stage. He looked really good in that game. Yes, was an easier matchup against Richmond Tigers, but to kick a goal, have 21 disposals, 3 marks, 3 tackles. The only question mark I have is if he's going to hold his spot in the side with, Bailey Smith potentially coming back. That's obviously going to change his role a fair bit. So does he go forward? Does he even start a sub? I'd probably lean towards he could be the sub there. But if I had to pick out of all these guys at the price point, I'm still picking Stevenson in my opinion. That is looking like to be borderline best 22 for them. Got to make some good coin with a negative 14 break even, so hopefully you can know whether he's playing or not. Archer May is still at a very decent price point. He's a bit more expensive, but his break even's still pretty good with a negative 9. Has shown the consistency in the last couple of weeks as well. Best matchup you can ask for, so should hopefully kick a few goals. He's definitely one that you could jump on. His job security looks rock solid as well. So definitely one that if you've got that bit more extra coin to spend, that you could go to him as well. But I think at this time of the year, you realistically want to try and keep it as minimal as possible to have the maximum amount in the bank to be able to sideways these premiums at ease. And then finally, I just had Job. I don't know how to say his last name, but he is a good key forward for West Coast, 310k. Again, just looking purely based off the job security, he looks like he's going to be staying for around for a while with, Waterman out for the season and also Oscar Allen. So they're looking for key forwards. He's done fairly good in the last 2 weeks against tougher opponents. He does have a couple easier ones coming up, so it can be a bit of a cash generator for you if you're looking for someone there in the forward line. So there's that. The final one I did have was just trading in a red dot. I don't hate trading in a red dot at this stage if you're looking to a bit more of a looping a sense, or you're just wanting to get rid of a position. I don't mind it at this stage to do that, just because we are getting towards the later part of the season. We've got 7 weeks. You probably only need to have 3 or 4 more rookies to be able to get those final upgrades that you're looking for. So if you already got those sort of ticked off, I don't mind getting rid of a position at all. So that is pretty much about it in terms of this video, to be honest. Top 5 overall for the week. I probably have Zach Merritt number 1, to be honest. He's just going to give you the most instant reward that you can ask for this week, and that's what I've all been going on about this in this video. You're looking for instant reward at this time of the year. If you want to do it as just 1 week play, you can always jump off him next week. But if you can hold him for longer, then great. That's just the way I look at it. Number 2, I like Zach Butters. Again, instant reward, decent line of fixtures. I've liked his form over the last couple of weeks as well, even though he's not putting up the best scores. So yeah, he's number 2. Number 3, I've got Lockie Whitfield. I just think price is right, and coming back from concussion, he should be fine. Good to go with a decent load of fixtures. Number 4, I've got Nick Martin, but it's a bit of a cop-out just because of a lot of people already own him. And then 5, I just had the Stevens there as the rookie upgrade, as the rookie downgrade. So that is my top 5. Hopefully they go well. But what are my trades looking like this week? So I have followed my tips this week, and I have gone with Tommy Stewart and Sam Doherty out to Zach Butters and Zach Merritt, 2 Zachs there, trying to maximize the amount of points I'm going to get this week, jumping off 2 sort of one failed player in Tom Stewart, who I traded in last week. I'm admitting I was wrong on that one. He did not put up the score that I was expecting in a decent matchup, so I'm just jumping off quick as I can. Can do it this time of year. And jumping off Sam Doherty, who is worrying me week on week. So jumping on 2 guys that I expect to give me big scores and generate some cash for me as well. So trying to maximize coins and give me the most amount of points upgrade this week. So that's my trades. This is my team at this stage. And yeah, we'll see how it sort of goes throughout the week. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video. Please leave a like, subscribe, and do all those great things as you do. If you do have any personal questions, feel free to go down below or go to my Q link as always. Besides that, I'll see you guys in the next video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Cheers, guys. Bye.